Ah, the government. It loves you and wants to keep you safe and well. It even wants to make paying taxes, fines, and court costs easier for you. How? Well, you'll need to meet your straw man. He was born the same day you were. He looks like you, has the same name, and lives in your house, but you never knew he existed. You will have even paid his parking tickets or taxes. The worst part? He's been dead from day one. From every birth certificate, a legal personality, or legal fiction, is created with the same name to confuse little old you into thinking it's you. So, there's a human you and a paper you, or as it's commonly known, a straw man. So when it seems like government officials, court clerks, or the police are speaking English, they aren't. They're speaking legalese, designed to make you agree to verbal and written contracts without even knowing about it, all spun from Black's Law Dictionary. For example, when the police say, "Do you understand?" you'll say, "Yes." What they are really saying is, "Do you stand under our authority?" Oops-a-daisy, you just created a verbal contract with them. Oh, you clever government. Did you know that whenever you register something, you are handing over title to the person you register it with? That's right. Whenever you register something with the government, they assume it belongs to them. Registered your car? Super! Now you are the registered keeper of your vehicle, and the government can crush it when you don't pay your, straw man's taxes. Expecting a new bundle of joy? Well then you need to register your little darling with a birth certificate. Then they can start the process all over again and create a new straw man for your little one. Isn't that great? So when Junior grows up, he'll be able to generate revenue just like you have. When you notify on your baby by signing the birth certificate, your child becomes a ward of state, and if the government doesn't like what you're doing, they'll assume it's okay to take the child away, or make new rules for things they don't like. Not enough school? Smacking your child? Shouting too loudly? And it's off to social services for the little one. When you get a bill, it's sent to you, but belongs to your straw man, not you. That's why bills, fines, and summons start with Mr., Mrs., or Ms. Sometimes you'll see your surname in capitals, just like on a gravestone. That's because your straw man is dead, and just a silly piece of paper, created before you could comprehend or even consent to it. When you go to court, you represent your straw man, so you, the human, take on any costs, fees, taxes, and fines involved for the straw man. The human you doesn't even need to pay them. But you made a contract with the court by appearing on behalf of your legal personality or straw man, just like the government knew you would. Confused? Well, don't worry. The government doesn't want you to know anyway. If you knew, you'd stop paying things like council tax and parking tickets. Because when you go to court, you are representing your straw man. You are you, alive and made of flesh and blood. Your straw man, or legal personality, is a piece of paper created from your birth certificate. And you think it's you. What a silly Billy.
This is a certified true copy of my live statement of birth. You can get this by applying for it at the Registrar General. They'll give it to you. And it's very interesting because this is where it all began. This is the foundation document. All identification is generated from this document. And so if the foundation document is no good, anything that's made from it is no good. That means driver's licenses, health cards, everything. Now what they did here, this is exactly what he meant when he said, soon every American will be required to register their biological property. Now your parents didn't realize what they were doing when they filled this out, and these didn't exist before 1933. Birth records were recorded in scripture, and these only came into being in 1933 when they hatched this plan. They created a corporate fiction with a name just like yours. In doing this, they registered and monetized the spirit and soul of a living being. This denotes ownership. And when your parents were tricked into filling this out, they allowed your spirit and your soul to be monetized. And futures were sold on you.
Spirit and soul.
Now, this is my birth certificate. This is actually a share. See this red number? This A, I'm born in Canada, this is a Class A share. Now, this is called a CUSP number. And all securities require a CUSP number. And that's what this is. And you are held as collateral to secure the debt which our government owes to international bankers. So you and me and all these people here are actually collateral. And we don't even own our lives. We are chattel. And we believe we're free. I made an application to the Registrar General and I got my original social insurance application. Now before they sent it to me, they put a little piece of paper over this before they photocopied it. Because my friend has his and they didn't block this out, and when you hold it up, you see Bank of Canada. It is said that the best slaves are the ones who don't know that they're enslaved. And we all have invisible chains on us and we don't know it.
What truth? That you are a slave here. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage, born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind.
We're talking about big bucks. We're not talking about hundreds of millions or even hundreds of billions now. We're talking about trillions of dollars. The obligation is immeasurable. Nobody can measure it.
This door's wide open now. It's gonna happen, whether you like it or not.
Do you notice that they have the same amount of ink on them? Do you notice that they're made out of the same virtually worthless stuff? It's paper. Did you get it? It's paper. When we create money, we have created an instrument of value that has no value of its own. And it's just as expensive or inexpensive to print the 20 as it is to print the 1. In January of 1913, in December of 1913, he signed the Federal Reserve Act, bringing the Federal Reserve System into place in America, and did what Thomas Jefferson said must never happen. He took the control of the money away from the people by taking it away from the Congress and gave it to a group of private individuals who have to pay taxes on the money they loan the government.
You see, there are two kinds of law. This is a subject I love. I've been talking about this for years. There are two kinds of law on the earth that rule the whole world, but most people don't know that. All over the world, all governments are ruled by what is called civil law. Civil law goes back to a Latin word, civili, which goes back to the word illy. Oh God, I mean, you could go on for hours on this stuff. Civil law, which is called in all countries the law of the land. So you say, well, you can't do that because it's against the law of the land. The law of the land is civil law, Roman civil law, the law of the land. But there is a second law which also operates all over the earth identical. It's called UCC, Uniform Commercial Code. That is the law of God in the world of business. I don't care if you're in Japan, in Africa, in China, in Istanbul, Turkey. If you have a company, if you have a corporation, if you are doing business where you buy and sell and make money, you are operating on this earth under something called UCC, Uniform Commercial Code. Because if all countries work on a different commercial code, then nobody could do business with anybody. You couldn't trust Japan to pay you. Japan couldn't trust America to pay them for the cars, because everybody has their own laws. Under the Caesars of Rome, they established under Caesar that all nations in the empire that do business, everybody plays on a level field. If you do business in Africa with China, you pay them. And if Africa does business with American companies, you pay them. You pay whatever it is you're doing business. You don't mess around. The most severe law in this world is called UCC, Uniform Commercial Code. It's the Bible of business on the earth. Uniform Commercial Code. Uniform Commercial Code is based directly on Vatican canon law, on the Roman canon law. Consequently, when a ship pulls into port, it pulls in and stops, and it's called in its berth. The ship is now in its berth. Because it is on the law of the high seas, or commercial maritime, UCC commercial law, rules the seas. So when the ship pulls into its berth, the first thing the captain must do is to present a certificate of manifest to the port authorities, which means that the port authorities need to know how much is on this ship that you're bringing into our country and our economy. How many TVs, how many cars, whatever you're bringing, how much are you bringing into our economy. So you have to have a certificate of manifest of what is the value of your ship here. What are you doing? Consequently, when you are born, you come out of your mother's water. Therefore, you must have a birth certificate, a certificate of manifest, because you are a corporation-owned item. You are a human resource. This goes back to the German Nazi concept that every human coming out of their mother's water must be birthed. And therefore you have to have a certificate, a manifest, to see how much this individual is going to make for us in our new world order. I'm telling you that until you understand the laws, the symbols, the emblems, what these words mean, you're never going to suspect how far gone we really are. Did you know, for instance, that your birth certificate is a security on the stock exchange in the New York stock market? Did you know that? Because if you order your birth certificate, get a new one, order your birth certificate, it'll only cost you, sometimes it's free. It'll only cost you a few dollars. Order your birth certificate. On your birth certificate, all birth certificates in this country, on the bottom, it will tell you this is printed on security papers. Do not accept it not on full color security paper. Then on the right-hand corner, you will always have a series of numbers, red numbers, printed on the birth certificate. Those numbers are a security stock exchange number on the World Stock Exchange. You go to any good stock office and ask them, check these numbers in your computer and see how much your stock is worth, the certificate. And they will check it on the New York Stock Exchange and find your birth certificate is a stock on the stock exchange in America. Why? Because you are worth money to the international bank that bought you in 1930. We need to wake up. This is serious stuff.
Welcome to Carver Federal Savings Bank.
All of our customer service representatives are currently assisting other customers. Please remain on the line. One moment, please.
How you doing? I don't know if I just spoke to you about the personal checks.
Who authorized the check?
Okay, I was just speaking to someone about personal checks, but I was on hold too long, so I figured let me try to call back again.
Yeah, I'm working by myself, so I had like 10 other calls. I couldn't just, so I just put you on hold trying to take care of those calls.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry about that. I didn't mean to hold you from your business, but this is really important to me because I'm using this as evidence that that I am not a name. I'm only authorized to use a name appearing on legal documents, which I submitted in order to have this account opened.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to know if Carver Bank would find, something like that erroneous, because I did establish an account based on those facts to a gentleman named Todd Brown.
Yeah.
And so, I wanted a checkbook because the checkbook has this evidence that concurs with what I told this gentleman prior to opening the account.
Yes.
That the name that the account is in is not me, but I'm called by that name, and I'm the only one authorized by the government to use that name and the documents that name appears on.
Yes.
But I am not a name, I am a man, and so if we're recognizing law as two different entities, then it will make sense that the account holder, which is the name, authorizes me because I'm the only one that can sign for a name.
Yes.
Just like Carver Bank is recognized by the law as a person.
Authorizing you. You're authorizing the name.
Right, because the government authorizes me to use the documents that name appears on, and I'm further authorized to sign that checkbook. So it makes me an agent. Because an agent is one that is authorized to do a thing. So if I'm the agent, it means that the principal is liable for my actions. But I'm not liable. The principal is liable because I'm the agent, meaning I'm doing what I'm doing on behalf of the principal.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make sure this is straight because I'm going to use a checkbook, a personal checkbook, as evidence to show that I act as an agent in relationship to that name, and I'm the only one authorized to use that name to do commercial transactions. Okay, so you are aware of this authorized signature microprint line?
Yes.
Okay. All right then. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you for your patience.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye. There we go. One more proof you need. We're going to take this straight to court, baby. That's it, folks. We are authorized to sign for the name on a checkbook, which shows that we are the agents and authorized representatives of the legal name appearing on the top left-hand corner of each and every single personal check.
Okay, I cracked the code, people. I looked up 1913. The income tax was started. The Federal Reserve System was started. The Internal Revenue Service was started. The 16th Amendment was started. So then I said, okay, well, the IMF's got to be in here somehow or another. So the IMF, after the IRS was started, the IMF was started. And let's see when it was started, the history of the IMF, 1944. I've been doing a lot of research. So the IMF was started in 1944 during the United Nations. The International Money Fund was conceived in July 1994 during the United Nations Monetary and Financial Conference. The representatives of 45 governments, blah, blah, blah. So the IMF pretty much has here's the member states of the IMF. Now, this is going to blow your mind, people. This is going to blow your mind. The dark green are every member of the IMF, full members. The green with the light colors have not agreed to accept Articles 8, Section 2, 3, 4 of the agreement. Now, who are these people? Okay, here's Afghanistan. Here's Iraq. Here's Afghanistan. Here's Iraq. Here's Syria. Here's North Korea. They're not even in it over here. Here's Myanmar, Sudan, and that article. And why are we in Iraq? We want them to accept the article. Why are we in Iran? We want them to accept the article. I mean, why are we threatening Iran? We want them to accept the article. There's a few countries in Africa that won't accept it. But here's the article. The article is general obligation to members. Now we know why we're in Afghanistan. Now we know why we're in messing with Iran. See, what happened was, the country goes bankrupt. So guess what? They say, well, we'll loan you money, but we need your gold. So the U.S. put their gold in Fort Knox, and that was their backup. So then they bankrupt them again. Well, we got all your gold, so now what are you going to do? Well, we'll let you have the birth certificates of the people, and every time somebody goes to work, you get a payment. Okay, give us the birth certificates. So then they go to these other countries, and they say, all these other countries, they bankrupt them. You know, they just took in Ireland today, and they're trying to get Iceland in there. So, well, we want you to give us some collateral, and we'll give you the money to fight that war that we started because we're financing both sides. Well, we need some collateral. Well, here's the gold. Okay, 20 years, 40 years later, they start another war, create another war. Well, we need some collateral. Here's the silver. And then 20, 40, 50 years later, they start another war. Well, we ain't got no more collateral. We're bankrupt. We'll create a birth certificate system. That's going to be your collateral, and every person on there is going to be a corporation. That's why their names are in capital letters. That's why when you put the birth certificate number on the New York Stock Exchange, you can find how much they're worth. You know, the initial value of the person is $1 million, and if somebody's educated, their value is worth like $4 or $5 million or whatever. You know, so each person in each country is worth something on the birth certificate. That's the collateral. So all these other states who have not fully gone in, one of them's Afghanistan, one of them's Iraq, one of them's Syria. So after we get in Afghanistan, cause them to break down and need to borrow more money, then we put them under bondage to accept the articles. Now the articles say this. Get my glasses on here. Introduction. In addition to the obligations assumed under the Articles of Agreement, each member undertakes the obligations set forth in the article. Number 2, avoids the restrictions on current payments. Subject to provisions of Article 7, no member shall, without the approval of the fund, impose restrictions on making of payments and transfers of current international transactions. Exchange contracts. B, which involve the currency of any member which are contrary to exchange control regulations imposed consistently with agreement shall be unforeseeable in the territories of members. You can read this. All you have to do is type in Article 8, General Obligation of Members, and that should bring it up. IMF should bring this up. Avoidance of discriminatory currency practices. No member shall engage or permit any of its fiscal agencies referred to in Article 5 to engage in any discriminatory currency arrangements or multiple currency practices, whether within or outside margins. Article 4 are prescribed by the under Schedule C, except as authorized in the agreement or approved by the fund. If such arrangements are engaged in at the date when the agreement enters into force, the members' concerns consult with the fund to their progressive removal unless they are maintained imposed. See, these international bankers know how to bankrupt the country. And then they finance both sides of the war and they get rich. So they bankrupt countries, they gas the collateral of their gold, they steal the gold, they bankrupt them again, and then they ask for collateral and say, we don't have any collateral. He said, well, you got birth certificates, don't you? Yeah. So then they start up an IRS and a fund to pay them. All your weekly paychecks are paid to the IMF through the IRS and the United Nations. So you are a slave. You're on the stock market. You're on the New York Stock Exchange. And you can look that up. Convertibility of foreign held balances. This is Section 4 that they signed. Each member shall buy balances of currency held by another member if the later and requested represents that the balance to be bought have been recently acquired as a result of currency, that their conversion is needed to make payments for the transactions. Anyway, all this is saying is you have to obey us. Period. You have to. Listen to this. Furnishing of information. The fund may require members to furnish it with such information as it deems necessary for its activities, including as the minimum necessary for effective discharge. Official holdings at home and abroad, holdings of home and abroad banking and financial agencies and offices, foreign exchange, production of gold, gold exports and imports according to country's destination, total exports and imports of merchandise and local currency values, international balance of payments, including trade and goods, international investment positions, national income, national income, national income. Why? Because they get taxes off the income because you are a commodity. Prices, indexes, you are cattle, people. This is why they vaccinate everybody. This is why they started social services, because they own your kids. When you signed that birth certificate, you signed over your kids to them. Buying and selling in foreign currencies, exchange controls, where official clearing arrangements exist. They own you. Let me say that again. The bankers, the IMF, bails out a country. They give over collateral, gold. They bankrupt them again. They give over the birth certificates as collateral. And then they set up a RS in every country, different names, and then they pay taxes to IMF because that's your collateral. You are cattle. You have to produce. If you don't produce, you do not pass go and you go to jail. You must produce. You are a cattle. They own you. Social services own your kids because you signed the birth certificate over at birth. And this whole thing's a big, fat joke. And it looks like it goes back to the Pope. And it looks like the Pope's the father. The rabbis are agents of the Pope. And the Grand Masters are agents of the Pope. That they're lieutenants to the Pope. I can't prove that part yet, but we know that the IMF, according to this map right here, has brought the whole world under subjection except for Afghanistan and Iraq and Syria. Why is Iran leader Minajah guy, he's driving a Ford truck? Why is Chavez down here in South America, why is he claiming to be what he is? It's a big joke. Why does the U.S., Canada, Russia, China, Japan have Internet 3? Because they're all communicating. It's all a big fat joke under the IMF. And they've got a few countries they're going to bring in of those articles, and then they're done. This is it. You're a slave. Your master is over here in the Vatican, and he owns you. The IMF is your boss. That's why you pay income tax. That's why China has a birth certificate. That's why China pays income tax. That's why they joined the IMF. Australia, Africa, the whole South America, Australia, Europe, Russia, Canada, everybody's under the IMF. They own you. You are a slave. Wake up. Pass this on. If you got more information, make a link a video. I'll approve it. Pass it on. You are a slave to the IMF, and they own you. And that's why you pay income taxes, not to the IRS, but they are an agent of the IMF. They were all started in the same year. The IRS, the income tax, the Federal Reserve, they pay the IMF their interest for the loans that they gave because your birth certificate is the collateral. You are on the New York Stock Exchange. Take that red letter on your red numbers on your birth certificate, put it in the New York Stock Exchange search, and you will find how much you are worth to them. I'm done.
And in here is the information that Serena's going to share with you next about how to collapse these trusts and how to create ecclesiastical deed polls and to create a new birth certificate. That's called a live-born record. Right? And I have a new trust number, and I have a universal, not a Roman date for my birthday. Anyway, Serena will be making that a little bit clearer.
Hi, I'm Durga. You're here because you know about something that most Americans still have no idea about, which is that you have a straw man. And so according to the Corporation of the United States, you are property that is traded in commercial transactions. And you are subject to any and all liability that the United States government and the IRS and the court system wants to put upon you at will, but only because your name is in all capital letters, and only because there was a bond issued against your own existence, the evidence of which is your birth certificate registered under the United States Department of Commerce. Nice. So, if you're like me, you are either in one of two places. You're pissed off and frustrated to find this out, or you're excited that there's a way around it and you just don't know what you're supposed to do next. So I've been researching this for the last 6 months, and I've been reading, and I've been reading, and I've been reading, and I've been putting the pieces together about all the different forms and all the different proceedings in order to operate as a free, sovereign individual in the free land of the United States under the original sovereign constitution in our system today. In other words, you and I get to be the Trojan horse